Hey everybody, and Tony here with a review of Verdi's La Traviata, which was shown at the Staatsoper im Schiller Theater. The conductor was Daniele Rustioni. The production was done by Peter Musbach. The set design was done by Erich Vonda. The costumes were handled by Andrea Schmidt-Futterer. The lights were handled by Franz Peter David. The videography was done by Stefan Runge and Anna Henkel-Donnersmarck, and the chorus master was Martin Wright. Now, I don't need to explain any further of why Verdi's La Traviata is one of my most favorite operas of all time, so I'll just cut to the chase and talk about the production, the singers, and the conducting. Now, the production of this particular La Traviata was actually very interesting. It's dark, it's foreboding, it's kind of creepy because this also delves into the psychology of Violetta. It's mainly Violetta's show from beginning to end, and she's on stage throughout the entire opera. What's also worth mentioning is that she has this sort of glow in the dark white dress, and she also has like a Marilyn Monroe style of hairdo. And yes, this particular Violetta is sort of reminiscent of Marilyn Monroe, as in she has all the glamour and she's very gorgeous on the outside, but inside we also get to see a lot of her turmoils and a lot of her, well, stresses that she has as a person. So it's kind of interesting that, well, the people behind this production feel that probably the most well known person to pretty much be a reflection of Violetta Valeri in like the 20th century is none other than Marilyn Monroe. She who has a lot of beauty and fame, but inside has a lot of turmoil and stress, and has also passed away very prematurely. And this is also quite interesting because, especially in the Brindisi, you don't really get to see Alfredo and Violetta raising their glasses and dancing around or anything. You get to see them circling each other as if though that something's up between them and something foreboding and something like, well, something's really not right between the both of them. But it's also quite interesting as it builds up a lot of tension. And like I said, this is mainly Violetta's show, and it delves into her psychology, into the losses that she's had, into her disease, into her quickly fading youth, and her quickly fading life. So, and also, what's worth mentioning is that, yes, there is a huge lack of like scenery, but what we get is like the backgrounds being like a like rain on a windowsill and like lots of cars passing through as if to show that this is mainly Violetta's life on the fast lane. And we also get to see that the floors are mainly like, the roads that you see when you're driving. So it's basically, well, La Traviata on the fast lane, which I found very interesting. And like I said, this production basically like dives into Violetta's psychology. And also, what's worth mentioning is also the costumes. There is a lot of dark colors. It's mainly all black and white, with white being Violetta and black being the chief color of all the other characters, whether they be Alfredo, Giorgio Germont, Anina, Flora Bervois, and many other of the characters in La Traviata. So overall, this production is dark yet very interesting, and this also delves into a lot of the psychological matters of each of the three main characters, mainly Violetta. And I thought the singing was absolutely well done, with Anna Samuil making such a wonderful Violetta. Now, Anna Samuil is a soprano that I've heard of a lot, and I've watched a couple of videos of her on YouTube. I saw her as Gilda, well, mainly on YouTube. She sang Caro Nome, and she sang some arias of Donna Anna, and I recently saw her as Tatiana, well, all on YouTube, obviously. What makes her interesting as a soprano is that her career is almost similar to that of her predecessors, like Jarmila Novotna, Licia Albanese, Mirela Freni, Adriana Moriponte, and Angela Georgiou, in which, just like those sopranos, she has specialized in a lot of the full lyric soprano repertoire, with a sprinkle of dramatic coloratura soprano repertoire, the light lyric soprano repertoire, and a smidge of the spinto repertoire. And she's also very well known for her gorgeous technique and her lyrical sounding voice, and also her dramatic capabilities as an actress. And she's also a very gorgeous singer and a very gorgeous person. And she was able to bring out the best in Violetta's character. Yeah, I would have loved to see her sing the high E flat of Sempre Libera, but oh well. Yeah, it doesn't matter if she didn't really sing it. It's just a small nitpick. But overall, I thought she was just absolutely fabulous. She really looked the part. She sang the part very well. And she really poured her heart out when she sang all of Violetta's lines. It was just a heartfelt, well, production of sound. And she had a tremendous, tremendous style of acting and one that I managed to get hooked on. Yes, I'm sort of a sucker for high notes. Yes, she didn't sing the high E flat of the Sempre Libera, but that's mainly an interpolated high note. So even though it's just one nitpick, I have to say that, well, it was just a wonderful, wonderful portrayal of a tragic heroine and one that she's especially well known for because it's no surprise. She sung this role in a lot of other opera houses, and also the likes of Gilda from Rigoletto, Fiordaligi from Così fan tutte, Donna Anna, and from what I've seen in her future repertoire, she might end up singing Antonia from Tales of Hoffmann and Amalia from Masnadieri. I mean, she was supposed to sing that at the Concerthaus on Gendarmenmarkt, but for some unknown reasons, well, Aurelia Florian had to take over. So I was really happy to have seen her as Violetta in this production of La Traviata. She really poured her heart out into this role, and with such wonderful tones and with a very agile voice and with such great theatricality, she really cut the part of Violetta very well, and one of those parts that has become very well known in her repertoire. Her Alfredo for the evening was Saimir Pirgu, who is a lyric tenor that I've heard a lot about and who's basically very well known in the lyric tenor repertoire of Mozart and a lot of the bel canto stuff like Rossini, Donizetti, and Bellini, and also some of the lyric tenor parts of Verdi. He's very well known for his Fenton and his Rinuccio from Gianni Schicchi. My goodness, what a voice he had. His voice basically reminds me of the likes of Fritz Wunderlich, Luigi Alva, and Nicolai Gedda, and also that of Alain Vanzot and a lot of the great lyric tenors of the past. He is just simply put an awesome singer with a wonderful piercing voice and such awesome, awesome theatricality. I was definitely touched by his portrayal of Alfredo. He managed to bring the impulsive nature of this wonderful tenor role, and he was just simply put in his element when singing Alfredo. He sang his part very well, and his chemistry with Anna Samuil and the Bergamo of the evening, Alfredo Daza, who I'll get to later, was just simply put memorable. And he really worked well off of Miss Samuil and Mr. Daza very well. And sure, even though he didn't sing the high C of O mio rimorso, I have to say that he sang very wonderfully. He gave such a wonderful interpretation of Alfredo, and I really hope to see a lot more of him. And then we go to Giorgio Germont, sung by none other than Alfredo Daza, who I saw last year as Francesco from I Masnadieri, who I thought he did a magnificent job playing and singing this role very well. And hearing him as Giorgio Germont was just fabulous. He was so nuanced in his singing. He sang softly when he needed to. He sang his heart out to the extreme, in which I felt so stirred by his performance, and his tone was not too harsh, not too soft, but it was just right. I mean, yes, for those of you who don't know Alfredo Daza and his career, he basically started out as a lyric baritone, singing the likes of Papageno and Guglielmo from Così fan tutte, and also that of Figaro from Barbiere di Siviglia. But along the lines, he has sung a lot more of the heavier repertoire. For example, like Francesco from Masnadieri, and most recently that of Giorgio Germont from La Traviata. He also sang this role in Tokyo. It's a pity I didn't see him in this role, but I'm sure the reviews were very favorable. So I really enjoyed watching him as the Père Germont, and he really gave his heart out. It was just simply put a very wonderful portrayal of one of Verdi's most memorable fathers. So all three principals really did their best in bringing their characters out, and it was just simply put so memorable to see them work well off each other. And the minor roles were sung very well, starting with Flora Bervois, sung by Katarina Kameloha, who I saw last year as Marcellina from The Marriage of Figaro. Now, even though her part was short, I have to say that she gave such a beautiful portrayal as Violetta's friend with a golden tone and with a great sense of theatricality, even though she didn't have a lot to act. So she was in great shape in such a thankless Verdi role. And then the role of Anina was sung by Annika Schlicht, who I saw last year and a couple of years ago as one of the ladies from Magic Flute and the slave from Strauss's Salome. Very wonderful tone, and she was able to make a great use of such a thankless character, and she definitely sold me. Both of these wonderful female artists really sold me in their parts. Singing the role of the Dr. Granval was sung by Jan Martinik, who I saw as Zarastro and Father Truelove. Even though his part was very short, he had such a wonderful voice. He maintained that gorgeous, plush quality of basso voice that I really love hearing. And then Gastone was sung by Stephen Chambers, who I saw last year as Arminio from Imasnadieri. A very fine voice, a very fine lyric tenor voice, and just simply put, a very gorgeous tone. And then Dufol was sung by Maximilian Krumen, who I saw as the keeper of the house in The Rake's Progress. Very gorgeous tone, and a very, very wonderful stage presence as well. Then we go to Marquis d'Aubagny, sung by Grigory Shkarupa. Just a very plush voice, and one that I would really love to see a lot more of because I do feel that he also has a very bright future in the basso repertoire. And in the much, much smaller roles of Giuseppe and Flora's servant, we have Frank Szafranski and Bernd Grabowski. Very fine in voice and just simply put, well executed in their singing. So overall, it was just a great evening of seeing all of these singers do their thing, and they all sang very well. There was no weak link whatsoever, and the conducting done by Maestro Rustioni was just fabulous. There was no moment where it dragged on, no moment where it went too fast. It was just right. So overall, this was definitely such a blast watching all of these wonderful singers and of course Maestro Rustioni and even this interesting production just really do their thing and work their magic just to make this evening very memorable. So to all of you who participate in this production, Kudos to all of you. Well, that's all for now. Be sure to tune in tomorrow with a review of Bellini's La Straniera, which is going to be shown at the Staatsoper Schiller Theater if I can make it. So it's the premiere of this opera, so I really hope that I'll make it to this opera. So until